just, I'm
I'm pretty sure that we got the split screen right now. I just want to make sure.
okay.
Multi-speaker immerse? No. I'm pretty sure that's both screens.
Yeah,
Anyways,
I see both.
okay. Hey, so I'm here with Scott Winters. Hey, Scott, how you doing today? Good to see you.
Good to see you, Mark. Good to
Yeah,
hear
I
from you,
just want
fellow.
to, yeah, I just want to apologize on behalf of Canada because I know the last time you came down here was a little rough for you. You showed up, and we've got like the biggest snowstorm I think of the year, you know, and we
You know,
tried to get you out of here.
my last name is Winters, bro. So
This is
I had to bring the heat.
This is true. This is true. The Winter Soldier. So you come down and you had to go through that, and then you go to leave, and then this is probably the only plane crash that happened at Pearson Airport. I don't even know for sure, maybe never. And you had to stay a couple extra nights in Canada, in the middle of nowhere. And unfortunately, we're on a low budget. It wasn't quite the Four Seasons. But I'm hoping you're okay with the accommodations throughout that. So
Oh, it was great, and you guys were highly professional, and you wrote a great script, Mark. And
thank you so much, man.
everybody was top notch. So I had a great time. I loved being stuck in Canada. It was actually it turned out well, and I'm glad there were no fatalities on that plane crash.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so
Absolutely, like unreal. Like, I mean, I don't think that that happens very often anywhere. I don't know
yeah,
what it had to do with the wind. I think it had to do with the bad weather, but the plane flipped, and
yeah,
yeah, luckily everybody was walked out of that alive. But I mean, it did shut the airport down for a few days, where I think maybe somewhere like JFK or something like that. They just keep it moving, right? But
yeah,
maybe a little different rules here out in Canada, right? So.
yeah, yeah.
I just
Well,
wanted to ask you a couple of things. I know that when we talked just you and I before, you spoke of coming down to Toronto for filming of Good Will Hunting, which is probably one of your claim to fames, and in my personal opinion, one of my favorite movies that I've ever seen, drama wise. I mean,
yeah,
amazing character, and in my opinion, one of the most pivotal roles in the whole film is the Matt Damon scenario, and obviously you got to kind of play the bad guy. I guess someone has to play the bad guy in the movie. So,
right.
if you could just tell me a couple of things about that, I'd be really happy to hear it.
Yeah. Um, I really enjoyed that experience shooting with those guys. I was excited when I read the script because the script was really good. Um, and we shot the interior of that whole scene in Harvard Square in Boston. Um, and then I'm sorry, we shot the exterior in Harvard Square in
Gotcha.
Boston in the cafe portion of that scene. And then the interior we shot in Toronto, which I was thrilled about just because of the tax incentives. And whenever I work in Canada, it's always a treat just because I love Canada, man, and I love Canadians, and I love the countenance of Canadians and just the ease with which Canadians love to work. Um, so that was a great experience. I loved being in Toronto. I'm from New York City, so seeing yellow cabs was great. um, uh, um, yeah, but I mean, I've worked quite a bit between Vancouver and Toronto, and it's always a treat, man. We're lucky to have Canada, as an industry. You guys are top notch. And so this being the second time I worked in Canada was on Mark Herbrand's film. But
Yeah, yeah, the big budget. The Oscars caught on their way too. As soon as we get there, I'll make sure I'll send you an invite to the Oscars, and we'll go from
thank
there.
you. Thank
In,
you.
in my, I know
Because
I said this to you, and I know this sounds kind of ridiculous, but it may not. But I actually felt this way when I said it. I didn't regret it, so I'm going to tell you that again. But I remember saying to you because I read this whole thing about how in Good Will Hunting they got Robin Williams for that role, and
yeah,
they were man like this is going to change this movie, blah blah blah. And man, Robin Williams, like caliber actor, like experienced veteran, and I felt like you were that guy for my film. And I was going through, Actors Access, and I just happened to see your name there, and I was like, really, I don't know, and when I watched your demo reel, I was like, this can't even be the guy, and watched it and sent you an email and we worked it out and then once you were on board, I had a lot of things that I had to accomplish to make the movie happen. You were like the earlier phases when you probably would have been mid or the end phase. So it really made me want to step up, and I tried to like make this a little bit more of a bigger picture than I assumed that it was going to be. So I was just so happy that that you were involved in the whole project, and it just kind of steps it up for us. And like I said, we're trying to get it in some different festivals and things like that. And having a veteran player involved in the project's really going to help us try to get that in the festivals that we're looking to get into, and trying to get this production company that I'm starting off the ground. So I mean, I felt like you were my Robin Williams for this film. So
Oh, that's so
yeah,
sweet of you
yeah,
to say that, Mark. I really appreciate that, man. Um, it seemed like there was some kind of divine uh, interference and timing, so to speak. Good
of course.
interference,
Yeah, yeah,
right? Just with what you're going through, with what I'm going through, and then suddenly we're on a set, filming together, and it
yeah,
was so easy.
yeah.
Seemed like there was such an alignment there. Um, so I appreciate your kind words, bro. But I also want you to be encouraged. You know, we might look at this as, a grassroots kind of a project, but the level of professionalism that you and your team brought was huge. And what I've noticed, Mark, in a lot of the independent films that I'm doing, in addition to the studio stuff that I do, is that oftentimes, you know, I don't know, you look at like a Bob Marley,
All right.
like he wrote he wrote most of his hits as a young man, as like a teen, and then he just refined them. You even look at Matt Damon and Ben Affleck.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
dude, they got that Oscar. I mean, that was 26, 27, 28 years. I mean, that was a long time ago, man.
yeah,
20,
yeah,
it'll be 30 years
yeah,
like this year,
yeah.
you know? And like they've not had a repeat performance of that, right?
Hmm.
And so there's something about when you're hungry and you're not overly stuffed with the commercialism and the trafficking that comes with the commerce part of the business, but
Gotcha.
then it's really about the value of the story, you know, and putting out the best product you can. There's something about that we don't really have the privilege of seeing in the moment because we just want to get the movie done. We're trying to
Yeah.
go at the highest level. So we're often blind to a lot of our own brilliance and skill and talent. And that's what I saw with you and your team
Oh
is that you
man.
guys are operating at a super high level that you're not very aware of. So I'm excited to see the final product and I'm
So,
excited to see this go to the feature level because
so
you've got a
amazing.
real story here.
Thank you so much. It's just crazy because like even at this point, when we film stuff, as soon as we get it done, like I'm looking at Ray and I'm like, I can't wait to get to the lab and have a look at this and see what it looks like and trying to
Yeah.
get some extra shots just in case. And still at that point where like I like to try maybe two or three different shots from some different angles and maybe two or three different choices when it comes to, how I'm acting or anyone else. Try not to tell anyone how to act specifically. But, like just watching myself, like this one works the best. And I like having the options, but sometimes you look at it and it's the one that you didn't think was the best
Yeah.
that ends up fitting the best into the whole thing. So,
Oftentimes,
man,
yeah.
it
Yeah.
there's like I've really found somewhere that I really enjoy being like from an artistic level, and it takes a bunch of people to make something like this, right? And
It does. Yeah.
had
Yeah.
such a
Yeah.
good time and with all these people, and like I said, for you, like coming on the project and having where you've been and the things that you've done, how that made me feel, and having some people that were background, I've been background, I'll still do background work, and
Sure.
like I'm going, oh man, and then like giving them a line here and there throughout the film and everything too, and like, oh man, and, like one guy, he had a few lines, and we've made a poster for him, and he's coming to the premiere, and I'm gonna put up a poster for him. He's bringing his wife and his kids, and like, man, like it just feels like it's an amazing opportunity for me to make what I want to make happen with my life, and people who are just as equally passionate, bringing that to them in the area that I'm from. And I
Yeah.
kind of like when I moved to LA last year, and I was like, man, I'm going to make it happen out here. And there's just so much competition out there. There's so many people for, like a line in this show and a line in that show. I was like, well, maybe I can make this happen, where I'm from.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where it's going now. And I'd like to make my own stuff, but I just really would love, like I'm craving the opportunity to try and, get myself to the kind of caliber that you've been to, throughout your career. And, just having you around and being out in LA and meeting some celebrities, I was just like, man, these are like good people. Like, it's not that far-fetched, when you kind of surround yourself with the people that you want to be around, doing the stuff that
Yeah.
you want to do.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Well, that's the great thing about creativity is you can dial in to right where you're at. In the middle of the day, you're having a barren moment, right? You're feeling the weight and the gravity of life and adversity and circumstances. And right, it's often for all of us, it's like we're pushing a boulder up a hill. It doesn't matter what level you're at,
yeah,
you're still pushing a boulder up a hill. Like, but the beautiful thing about creativity is you get to pull on the gold that's in even those barren moments that are not obvious. That's why the creative process, it's intense. Sometimes it's a wrestling match, sometimes it's a street fight, but like creativity allows us to celebrate life, even the adversity and the anguish and the barren parts of this life. And we get to transmogrify it into a story that can be life giving, you know, because we're all wired for story. We've all been preloaded for this need for story. And when we tell a good story and it's well told, everybody wins, you
yeah.
know. That's what you guys are doing.
You
So,
just imagine me, I just imagine like, like some people around a campfire, like way back before, there's any type of theater or anything like that. Just, right back to the basics. So back to the basics. HBO, we got Oz. And we talked about this before, but I wanted to talk about this for this Instagram thing where you did Oz.
yeah,
And that was kind of like, I know that there was The Sopranos at that time, and it was kind of around the same time, but I don't think The Sopranos got as popular after maybe the second or third season. Like Oz was popular like right out of the gate. And that was
yeah,
basically like the beginning of HBO for the channel, HBO itself, which anything that comes on there, even if it's not kind of out of my genre or my realm, I still watch it because the quality there is just, it's always on point with that kind of stuff. So,
yeah.
what was that like, being on that set? How do you get a role like that? Did you work that character out before you went in there? I know that you had your brother actually played your brother on the show.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. We had worked, Mark, we had worked for Tom Fontana before. I had done a guest star on a pilot for him. I had also worked on his show Homicide, Life on the Street, which was an NBC cop show. Um, and so yeah, Tom, I didn't I didn't even have to audition. I think he just knew that I was like a character actor, like a character leading man guy.
yeah,
So I just brought him way more than he bargained for. When he was like, "Yeah, we think you could probably you could play Ryan O'Reilly's brother, you
hmm
know, and maybe you're slow, like a little bit slow." And so
yeah,
I was
yeah,
started thinking like of Mice and Men with John Malkovich and Gary
yeah. Love the
Sinise,
movie.
or Dominic and Eugene,
Okay,
Ray Liotta and Tom Hulce, another amazing movie about brothers. One of them's special needs. And so I just started to sink into it a little bit. And I love character acting because to me, that's the highest form of acting. Um, Even as leading men, we can still grab onto a character and just adjust uh, and play a character. But yeah, that was a treat for me, man, because um, I'm playing brothers with my biological brother,
yeah,
and uh, and yeah, we kind of launched HBO with the first 1 hour drama, and I think because America's diet for mafia stories, we had seen what Goodfellas and
yeah.
Godfathers 1, 2, and 3,
Casino.
Casino, yeah, so much. We had this huge diet, and it's great. But I think that Oz just being prison it was a big hit in Hollywood, like out of the gate. Like, we had Chaz Palminteri directed us, Matt Dillon, Kathy Bates, Brian Cox. We had big rap stars like LL Cool J and Tretch from Naughty by Nature and Master P. And like everybody wanted to be on the show and
Yeah, yeah.
everybody was watching it in Hollywood. Because we only did 8 episodes, we were never up for an Emmy because you got to do 10.
Oh,
But
geez.
we had all these amazing actors, and there was a lot of, yeah, people got hooked on Oz really quickly. And then I think, to your point, Mark, after a couple seasons, people loved Sopranos, and Sopranos was a great show. I've never watched the whole series, but I know that it was, great mob show. I just think Oz was a little bit different. When you see people in prison, you're seeing people who have been defined by the worst day of their life. You
Yes. And that was kind of cool about that show too. They always like flash back to the how they got in there.
Uh-huh.
You know, and
Mhm.
then watching some of those episodes too, I was like, just imagine them writing that, like writing that now. Even then, it would be like, sure, we could do this. Can we say
Yeah.
that? You know, like it is a television show.
Totally.
Like I don't even know if they could even write a film like that. If you try to pitch that, like, yeah, then this happens. This guy, like especially your character, and he's so vulnerable
Yeah.
and so abused, and the whole throughout the whole thing, man.
Just like, yeah, it's like,
Like
whoa, what a tragedy. Yeah.
so
Yeah.
wanting to be like a better actor, you can talk yourself being a character actor. How do you have to do you have to go like a Joaquin Phoenix where like you have to act that way the whole day, or can you just be at the water cooler and then you got your lines and then you know what you're gonna and then you just kind of turn it on right when you turn the corner? Can you immediately go into that guy, or do you have to kind of like work yourself into it, or what's your
Yeah.
process like?
Yeah. I think it's kind of case by case, but for that, um, yeah, I just turn it on. Just,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
It's almost easier like that for me.
yeah,
Yeah. So you want to do your work behind the scenes on who your character is going to be, but then I think in order for it to be fun, for me personally, I got to let go of it. You know
yeah,
what I mean? I got to
yeah,
let go of
yeah,
it and just, joke around between scenes and
yeah,
like, because then going back into it, it's less of a, I don't know, it's almost less of a heavy lift because it's more play. It's
yeah,
more,
yeah. You don't have to
I'm not
work
treating
yourself.
it. What's
Sorry,
that?
you don't have to work yourself up to get into the character. You just already automatically have it.
Yeah. Yeah. And with a series, because you're doing it, over time,
Yeah,
it can be very much stepping off the curb. Obviously, with some of the more intense scenes, you know, I'm gonna have some quiet time before they call action. You
yeah,
know,
yeah. I
yeah,
can just always imagine you're talking to Ryan, you're like, "Hi, Ryan." It was like so like Ryan, it was like so soft, and then like just the activity going on around you, and like these, and then some of the people when he wasn't around trying to take advantage of you, and like you were the really good boxer too. Like, weren't you the best boxer in the prison or something like
yeah,
that? And like,
yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
great show, man. I got the DVD box set still, sitting in the
Oh,
back.
sweet.
Probably got some dust on it, but yeah, yeah. I
Yeah,
was a collector at that point and a lot of the HBO stuff, especially like Sopranos. I thought Sopranos got better through over time after the first or second season. The
yeah,
characters started developing a little bit more. And they weren't afraid to kill them either. I think Oz was the same way. Like you
yeah,
like a guy and
I,
all of a sudden he's gone,
yeah,
you know? How long
yeah.
did you last?
I did 5 seasons.
5 seasons. You got executed, right?
I did. Yeah, I did 5 of the 6.
Only in
I did,
America.
yeah, I did 5 of the 6 seasons, and then yeah, I was executed that last season. Um, Epic, man.
What a show, man. What a show. I
Yeah,
guess just a couple more questions, buddy. So when
yeah.
it comes to yourself and it comes to like you choosing certain things that you want to choose now, um, how do you kind of go about like picking, or if you had any advice you want to give anyone who's interested in maybe becoming an actor and they're just trying to get into it and they're doing background stuff and they would take anything. Would you suggest for them to take anything, or like do you have any direction, or if you could go back, what you would do? How did you end up becoming successful at an earlier age, being from New York and having that much competition at the time, I guess?
Um, so relationships. are like any business, doesn't matter what you do, you know, and really at the end of the day, life is about relationships, right? So relationships are key. Um, I would say today, because we've been given the science of filmmaking, like we can all do this.
Yeah,
You can make them, you can, I mean, I think I don't know if I read for something or submitted myself for a movie that's being done with iPhones, you know,
crazy.
like what happens is we get a little bit cynical, and it's so tempting to play the victim in life. It's not like we intend to do that, but when we look at the industry of film and television, we just end up discounting ourselves because we think of it as this deity, right? And we discount ourselves and what we're capable of doing. But really, for somebody who's starting out, dude, it's like grab a couple friends with your iPhones, get a couple selfie sticks or, you know, some Steadicam Junior that could hold your iPhone that's got a balance on it, or just use your hands, you know, and shoot a scene. Make a 2 minute. I just did a short film. It's a 2 minute film. 2 minutes by really creative guys. We shot it out at the Salton Sea, and they took it really, really seriously. And this was a high level DP, director of photography. But like at the end of the day, it was a 2 minute short film.
Yeah,
And you can do that
yeah.
with your friends. So I would say, Mark, like, don't follow the money, don't chase the money or the fame, but just do the art of it. Because we tend to relegate creativity to professionals who are making a living. And bro, that is so wrong. That is so wrong. Like everybody is made in the image of the creator. And I'm saying that shamelessly. Okay. Not everybody's a believer. That's fine. That's
Yeah, yeah.
okay. God still believes in them, even though they're not, even though they don't believe in him.
Gotcha.
Uh, everybody is made in the image of their creator. And so we all have this creativity inside of us that needs to get out. As a matter of fact, like the mental health pandemic covering the earth is because with all of this technology, we are not being acting as creative as we were created to be.
Hmm.
And that creativity will turn inward and just start feeding off of our own selves in different ways. So that's a very rabbit trail, long-winded answer to your question, Mark.
I
But
think
I
I
would
asked three questions in one anyway, so
Yeah, I would just say, look, with Steve Jobs and Bill Gates and this whole tech revolution that's like 30 years old now, we have the science. The science has been put back into the hands of the audience, and this giant decentralization of Hollywood is happening. So we can do this. You can take a master class on YouTube. You can learn to act in your room. You
yeah.
can, you know, so there's a lot of resources that we have that if we can come out from under the principality of the industry of Hollywood, if we can come out from under that and reconnect with creativity, then we'll do really good work. You know, it doesn't matter if you don't have a name yet. Like, so don't chase the money, don't chase the recognition, but chase run with the creativity that you've been given because everybody's creative.
I was with my mom eating Chinese food at a restaurant. And it was in another city. And I was gonna try to shoot this thing with two iPhones, and I was having a hard time finding actors. And I was like, you know what? I was just frustrated. I'm gonna shoot the whole thing myself. It's gonna be like coming to America. I'm gonna play every character. I'm gonna put a wig on, and they're just gonna shoot somebody's back, and I'm gonna play every guy. And I was sitting with my mom complaining, and I opened up a fortune cookie, and it said, if you want to win, you need to be more direct. And I look at things strangely sometimes. I look at that, I'm like, direct. I need to direct this thing. and I went
Yeah.
across the street and I bought an FX3, a Sony Cine camera. It's the next step from the base model. And that's what we shot it with, like a $5,000 camera. We used a couple other ones that aren't quite to that caliber, but they call that next Netflix quality with a decent lens. So I mean, if anyone's interested in making movies, I mean, you can make one with an iPhone, sure. After that, I guess for me, it's one more step up, and
Sure.
I kind of believe in what I'm trying to do, and I've written some things that I think, they're interesting to me,
Yeah.
and I hope they're interesting to other people. I hope people can connect with it because that's kind of what I think it's about for me at this point is trying to have people like, okay, like you make it kind of vague enough where people can relate to it because it kind of can mean a few different things.
Yeah.
And most of the stuff that I read, I kind of want it to mean something, but it can mean something else.
Yeah.
So more than one person can relate to it with
Well, that's
different
that's just
issues.
truth. That's just truth, right? If you're being true to the passion that is causing you to want to tell this story, then it is. It's going to mean different things to different people, you
Yeah.
know?
hmm
Yeah. It's
It's it,
dimensional. Yeah.
it Scott, I just want to say thank you so much for, taking the time today and answering some of my questions and having this conversation. And I just want to say thank you so much for being there and be a part of my first film. And I'll never forget it, man. And we had some really good conversations. And I was just so thankful that you were there at a time that's like, so wild for me. And it means a lot. So I just
Yeah.
want to say thank you so much, man. And don't be a stranger. Please keep in touch. And if I ever come out to LA there again, I'll look you up.
Please do, bro. And I look forward to working together again, Mark, for
Thank
sure.
you. Thank you.
100%, bro. It's
Appreciate
an
it.
awesome experience.
You're the best, man. Thank you so much for everything.
See you, bro.